Have you ever gotten a pay raise and noticed that your shopping list just completely transforms overnight? Well, today we're going to dig into the hidden economics of your shopping cart to figure out exactly why that happens. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the link between your wallet and your choices. Then we'll introduce a really cool tool called the angle curve. After that, we'll get into how economists actually classify the stuff you buy. Then we'll test price sensitivity with a fun little case study about going to the movies. And finally, we'll see how this whole thing scales up to the real world. All right, so let's start with a question I think we've all asked ourselves. You get a little more money in your paycheck, and suddenly the instant noodles get pushed to the back of the pantry and you're buying fresh pasta. What is the actual economic logic behind that switch? That's the mystery we're cracking today. Okay, let's dive into our first section, your wallet, your choices. This is all about that super fundamental connection between the money you make and the things you decide to spend it on. And believe me, it seems obvious, but there's a real science to it. And this isn't just some random observation. Economists have developed these really fascinating tools to map this exact behavior. They can create a kind of visual story that shows how your spending shifts when your income changes. It's all about predicting those choices. And that leads us perfectly to the main tool we're going to be using for this, the angle curve. This is going to be our map for connecting your income to what you buy. So what is this thing? Well, the beauty of the angle curve is its simplicity. It's really just a graph. On one axis, you have your income, and on the other, you have how much of one specific thing you buy. That's it. It just isolates that relationship between what you earn and what you want. To put it another way, just think of it like this. The angle curve is a picture that answers a super practical question. Hey, if I get a raise, how much more steak am I going to buy? Or, on the flip side, how much less ramen? It makes a kind of abstract idea feel really concrete. Now, this whole steak versus ramen idea leads us straight into our next big concept, how economists actually classify goods. Because, believe it or not, depending on how you answer that question, economists can put every single thing you buy into a specific category. Turns out, not all products are created equal in our brains. Okay, so let's break down the two main buckets here. First, you have what are called normal goods. Simple enough, when your income goes up, you buy more of them. That fancy gourmet coffee is a perfect example. Then you have inferior goods. Now, hang on. Inferior doesn't mean it's low quality. It's just an economic term. For these goods, when your income goes up, your demand actually goes down. This is the classic instant noodle situation. As soon as you can afford something you like better, you make the switch. And there are other relationships too, right? You've got substitutes. These are things you use in place of each other. If the price of one type of fancy beef, say Kobe, goes through the roof, people might just buy more Wagyu instead. Then there are complements, which are things that go together. So if the price of coffee shoots up, fewer people buy coffee. And as a result, the demand for sugar also drops. So we know our buying habits change. The big question is, by how much? And that's what our next section is all about. The price sensitivity test. The special tool we use for this measurement is called elasticity. I absolutely love this analogy. Just picture it. Elasticity is like an economic rubber band. For some goods, your demand is super stretchy. A tiny little pull on the price causes a massive change in how much you buy. But for other goods, your demand is really stiff. You can yank and pull on that price, and the amount you buy barely even budges. Let's break down the three main types. First up is elastic demand. This is your stretchy rubber band, and it's typical for luxury goods. Think about it. If a designer watch gets a little cheaper, sales might just skyrocket. Then you have inelastic demand. This is the stiff rubber band. This is for necessities, things like essential medicine. The price can go way up, but you still need to buy about the same amount. And finally, unitary is that sweet spot right in the middle, where price and quantity change by the same exact percentage. Okay, now here's where we tie everything back to that pay raise we talked about at the beginning. Income elasticity uses the same rubber band idea, but it measures the response to your income instead of price. It tells us just how sensitive your demand for something is to a change in your paycheck. And this is the key. This one little number is what officially tells an economist if something is a normal good, an inferior good, or even a luxury. All right, enough with the theory, right? Let's get our hands dirty. Welcome to our case study, Cinema Economics. We're about to solve a real-world problem using the exact tools we've just learned about. So, meet Andres. He's a big movie fan,
And this table right here shows us his movie-going habits. As you can see, when his monthly disposable income goes up from 40 euros to 70 euros, the number of movies he sees goes up too. So the question is, what kind of good is the cinema for him?
So here's the puzzle we need to solve. Just by looking at this data, can we figure out if going to the movies is a necessity for Andres or if it's a luxury? Now remember our definitions. A necessity is a type of normal good, but it's way less sensitive to income changes than a luxury good is.
To figure this out, we have to calculate his income elasticity. Now, I know the formula might look a little intense, but don't sweat the math. The important part is the result, not the calculation itself. We're just taking the change in the number of movies he watches, dividing that by the change in his income, and then making a quick adjustment. So we'll just plug in the numbers from the table for when his income moves from 50 to 60 euros.
And when we run that calculation, we get a very specific number, 0.58. So what on earth does 0.58 actually mean? Well, there's a simple rulebook here. Because the number is positive, we know for a fact it's a normal good. He buys more when he earns more. But, and this is the key, since that number is less than 1, it's officially classified as a necessity, not a luxury. So for Andres, going to the movies is a normal necessary good.
Okay, so let's zoom out for our final section here. Demand in the real world. How do we go from understanding just one person, like Andres, to understanding the entire market? It's actually a lot simpler than you might think. The total market demand for anything, movie tickets, coffee, cars, you name it, is just the sum of all the individual demands. You just add up what Andres wants, what I want, what you want, at every possible price, and poof, you have the demand for the entire market.
All right, so as we wrap up, let's do a super quick recap of the big ideas. Number 1, the angel curve. That's our visual map for linking income to consumption. Number 2, we classify all goods as either normal or inferior based on how our income affects our choices. And finally, number 3, elasticity. That's our powerful measurement tool that tells us exactly how sensitive our demand really is.
And that's pretty much the whole shebang. So I'll leave you with one last question to think about. Now that you've got the theory down, take a look at your own life. What's the one inferior good you buy that you would be quickest to drop or replace if your income suddenly doubled tomorrow? It's a pretty fun way to see these big economic ideas playing out in your own kitchen.